Hello, welcome to Revelator Alf. It is another radio podcast thing, and I'm going to be talking about all things motorcycles, of course. I'm going to be talking a little bit about them and somebody who wants to punch my lights out. It's all been kicking off the last couple of days, but rest assured, it's all in good fun. If you take anything serious in life, you send yourself to an early grave. Anyway, so tonight it's all about going on YouTube. We're going on Twitch live, and it's all about the motorcycles. What's happening in the news? And there's a couple of interesting debates, I suppose. Little interesting stories. I suppose one of the first things I'll be talking about quite soon is, should motorcycle dealerships, car dealerships, that kind of thing, should they have YouTube channels, and what kind of YouTube channel should they be? So that's one thing here. I'm also going to be talking about, what do you guys think is going to be the best motorcycle tourer for 2023? And I've got a few options here, but this is by no means a definitive list. But by all means, let us know your thoughts, and you can always subscribe and to all the different social channels as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, get onto Twitch and subscribe there as well, and follow along there. That'd be much appreciated. You can join in the chat. As I say, join in the chat, let us know your thoughts, what you're up to, where you're from, and all that kind of stuff, what you're riding, and that kind of thing. The first part of the show, then, we're going to dig into the news, and it's all about this. Okay. So hopefully you can hear me all well. This is a story. I'm gonna kind of rattle through the stories of the day for you, but I just want to draw your attention to a few things. Obviously, electric bikes, but electric technology is kind of coming in fast, right? As we all know. But Suzuki have just basically said the last few days that they're going to be introducing their first electric bike, proper electric bike, not a little scooter here. I'm talking proper electric bike in next year, 2024. But they're saying that they're going to come out with eight electric motorcycles, two-wheelers, whatever it is, by 2030. As I keep on saying, watch out for the Japanese Big Four. They're going to be coming on strong in the electric bike market over the next few years. So that's one little mini story for you in the kind of the electric bike world. And if as I always say, or as I've been saying for the last few days as well, the likes of Harley Davidson got the live wire and Delmar and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, great stuff. They kind of were the first manufacturer to get in, the major manufacturer to get in the electric bike world, of course. But you got all those other electric motorcycle manufacturers who, that's how they've started off, was as like crowd-funded enterprises, and they've obviously developed. But they haven't had this competition of the big players. Now the big players are going to come on board. Let's see what's what, as it were. Okay, so that's the first story. The second story, again from Visor Down. They've been knocking out the stories here this week. Again, Ducati. Now Ducati, they basically revealed this early last year, I believe, and they were basically saying that for the MotoGP races, they were going to be the official motorcycle provider, and that's just how it's developed. So production has began on the Ducati V2 or V21L bikes that will take part in the 2023 Moto E World Championships, marking the beginning of Ducati's electric chapter. Now Ducati they've been talking about electric bikes for about, I'd say about 5 years. So when, the likes of Harley Davidson were bringing it on, actually Ducati weren't that far behind in terms of announcing that they were going to do it. So anyway, they announced last year that they were going to be the provider of the bikes for this Moto E Championship. And, well, there you go. It's happening. It's happening. Okay, here's an interesting one here, again from MotoGP World, I thought, and this is from Motorsport. But I thought it was really interesting in terms of technology, right? Basically, they're basically saying when when they're discussing about MotoGP or Ducati's MotoGP, they won the World Championship last year. But underpinning it is also something that no one really talks about, and that's computer modeling, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence. Would you believe? So it's basically the way they're mapping and the way they're doing through all aspects of the preparation, the racing, and the data analysis and everything like that. A lot of this has come over from Formula One, and it's basically gone into the MotoGP world, and Ducati are one of the first ones to really harness it, and obviously they're getting great success out of it. So, there's a lot more to it, but obviously just go to it. It's called motorsportmagazine.com. Go and have a read of it. It's a really, really good story here by Matt Oxley. Yeah, really good, really good. So very interesting if you're into sort of tech and seeing how that all works. Okay, the next story here, again, this is about the batteries, the battery life and everything. I thought this was a really interesting one here. There's this product called Thermox TRX, which is a heating system to protect e-batteries or e-bike batteries. And it basically goes on, it's almost like it's an outer shell, a very thin outer shell, which would go over batteries, and it's a kind of electrically charged. So what it is, at sub-zero temperatures, this will activate to keep the batteries from getting too cold. As you know, when batteries get really cold, even in electric vehicles, their performance dramatically reduces. So they're saying this is like an auto regulator. It's got an auto switch on it, which will just kick in at 0 degrees Celsius and below, keep the battery relatively warm, and then when the temperature rises above 0 degrees or 1 or 2 degrees, whatever it is, then it switches off. So the battery just operates at normal temperatures. It doesn't cook the battery, in other words. There's one little thing here which made me really laugh. It basically said this. It was saying, okay, yeah, it protects the battery's sub-zero temperatures, but it itself is actually powered by a couple of small lithium batteries, I believe. And let me just make sure this is right. So the Ultra TRX, which it is, says that it runs on 2 rechargeable button batteries, so small button batteries, and it says here in the article, which I assume are more resistant to low temperatures than the typical lithium battery pack. So that there could be a flaw in this design already, because if it's running off little batteries, and if those batteries are affected by the cold, the system's not going to work very well, obviously, is it? So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Again, this is great for technology, great for what's going on in the world, or what will happen over the next few years. I keep on talking about evolution of batteries, evolution of motors, evolution of all sorts of things in this, not only in electric bikes, but hybrid bikes, all this sort of stuff, alternative fuels. So, for me, that's what's the groundbreaking stuff that's happening over the next few days. Okay, here's another bit of tech I thought was really interesting. This is from Motorcycle News here in the UK, and they're talking about this new technology to help inexperienced riders unveiled. And this is not, or the concept isn't new, because I'm sure this came out about 5 or 6 years ago. I think they've even started to toy with this about 10, 15 years ago. But I think they've actually manipulated, or there's a company here that actually found a way to do it effectively. And it basically enables the bike to be more upright. So it works with traction control and all that kind of stuff. So that although it says here, although details remain scarce, the system uses sensors around the vehicle and calculates the degree and speed of lean angles at speeds of lower than 13 miles an hour and lower. The software then triggers the necessary counter movement of the handlebars to straighten and stabilize it in real time, meaning that it shouldn't fall over. So if you're about to lose the bike, you're at slow speed, the bike is moving, it's got to be moving, then it basically enables it to self-correct, and it's just the start of what they're saying of self-driving motorcycles, or self correcting motorcycles. So I thought, I thought that was an interesting concept there, actually. But anyway, you can see the way technology is going, especially on these cutting edge bikes. It's just getting more and more advanced all the time. Okay, let's just talk about the next thing, shall we? Let's get into this. Okay, if you go into the website now, revelatoralf.com, that you'll see a couple of stories down. I did a story this week, kind of expose, not really, just about Moto Morini, the X-Cape motorcycle, which I featured on a live show a few months or 2 or 3 months ago now. But I did a little piece on it, just giving you some more photos and everything. But here's a kind of corroborating story, if you like, and this is from the Mirror. Mirror.co.uk, one of the old tabloids, has now gone online, but it's basically saying how you don't need a big wallet to buy a big adventure bike to have the adventure. And this is what I've always been saying, right? And you don't need the big adventure bike, but you also don't need a big expensive one, which they're very nice, don't get me wrong, but you don't need it. So the Italian brand Moto Morini, which is a really old brand, but they've sort of come back, they bought out this X-Cape, which, and you go onto the website, I've got lots of photos, there, a lot more photos are in here, and they're basically saying that, it kind of rivals the Aprilia Touareg 660, the Triumph Tiger 660 Sport, all the other mid-range motorcycles, but it's coming in a lot cheaper at £6,999, and it's just very, very decent looking. I mean, it looks the part. It looks very much Dakar Rally, very much rally raid style. Certainly the front end, and then the rear obviously not so much, but it looks good. There is a little bit of Triumph Tenere in there as well, 700. But it just looks good. It looks good, and apparently, by all accounts, it munches up the miles. The bad news though is that the screen, which are probably incredibly noisy, buffeting at anything over 65 miles an hour. Yeah, okay. There's they're given a decent write up here. Tires are 17-inch in the rear, 19 in the front, so not fully off-road capable setup, but decent. It gets a good review here for what it is, and nice little setup. You can see there with all the boxes. I don't think you're going to go far run, especially with a £7,000 price tag. That's decent. That's a decent buy, so I would say. I can, and me, I always talk about value and everything like that. I can see value in that. I could definitely see value in this bike. It looks the part. It looks nice. If you like this style of bike, of course, right? But it seems to look right. I'm sure if you start adding the boxes and everything, it's going to go beyond £7,000, £7,500, let's say. But as a starting price, yeah. I like that. I mean, it also talks about, Royal Enfields and things like that. As I say, Royal Enfields, massive for this year. Okay, the next new bike, well, it's a Royal Enfield. This is the Super Meteor 650. I talked about this again a couple of months ago, and sort of Royal Enfield have sort of brought this out now, and it's Indians, as in the country India, Indians middleweight lineup, but they're saying it's a real threat to the Harley Davidson, or some of the Harley Davidson models. And again, this is what I talk about on a repeated basis, is that you're getting motorcycles now that are coming out like the likes of Royal Enfield that are producing not only good on the eye, they're visually nice, they're nice to look at, but they're performing really well. The build quality is good. And yeah, it might not have the horsepower or the torque of of things like Triumphs or BMWs or Harley Davidson or Indian, for example. However, when you align price and functionality and design cues and the retro feel, there's a lot to be admired here. So this is not the first press here. This is topspeed.com. This is not the first publication here that is basically saying that this Royal Enfield Super Meteor is going to be a real test for the likes of Harley Davidson, especially in that sort of cruiser role, the cruisers, and maybe even some of the Revolution Max, like sort of Knights of Sports Rest, that kind of thing. This is where this is where they're saying, actually watch out, because bikes like this are the ones that are really going to have the greatest impact. Whether you want to accept it, whether you want to agree with it, whether you think this is right or not. What I'm saying is, it's not me who's saying it, although I do believe it as well. I'm saying there's lots of other manufacturers out there. Sorry, apologies. There are many other publications out there who are saying exactly the same thing, right? And they've been saying this for a while now. I talked about Honda motorcycles, the CMX 1100 Rebel T, a couple of months ago, or a month or so ago. I've been talking about Royal Enfield a lot. I've been talking about other manufacturers that come in at a fraction of the cost. And you've got to say, well, where are good people going to go? Now, some people are never going to go for that, right? They're never going to go for Royal Enfield. But, where I see, funny enough, I kind of disagree where this is going to be a competitor for Harley Davidson, because I think they're too far apart in terms of aesthetics. But where I do think this is a real serious competitor for is Triumph. Triumph motorcycles with their Bonneville range, the Speedmaster, the Bonnevilles, those kinds of bikes. I forgot what other bikes they've got, but you know what I mean. This is where I think the major competitor is for Triumph. It's come from Royal Enfield, but I take their point in that in that cruiser retro world. Yeah, they're a decent buy here. Okay, so that's Royal Enfield there. Here we've got, I talked about the Honda with their XL 750 Transalp, the sort of relaunched, revamped version. They're coming in the prices here now in the UK. These are 2023 bikes, and I talked about this in a few shows ago. I'd say they're coming in at price decent, and it's kind of a glowing report here. This again from Visor Down, but basically, and Transalp always got great pedigree with that sort of bike, mid-range bike. 750 750cc, isn't it, or 749cc? I can't remember exactly what it was, but a 750 anyway, just coming under £9,500. £9,500 for a Transalp. But if you compare that with a Moto Morini, which I just talked about, that's £2,500 more. Okay, granted, but you are talking about Honda now, and Honda, regardless of what we know or say, they produce bikes that are going to go and go and go, right? So just bear that in mind. A good little article here from Visor Down, because I not only talk about the price, as in purchase price, you buy it outright, but they're also comparing it to PCP finance deals as well, and how much it would likely cost as well. So this is good. This is good information. So good job from Visor Down here. I really rate this bike. I really rate Hondas with these kinds of bikes. Africa V-Twin, I thought was a great bike. The I rode the Transalp back in the day when it first came out, the first variation. It was kind of revolutionary at the time. So this is good stuff from them. Okay, here the next story about two new bikes, Kawasaki. Well, I'm not sure if this is the same story, but it must be, because they were going to announce two new motorcycles for the United States market. However, they've already announced it for the European market, and it's this ZX4R range. And if you're into your sports bikes, actually, just like the ADV bikes, the big adventure bikes, there is a growing market for smaller, very capable small cc sports bikes that have got all the lines, but they're just small cc. So it's great, and these are supposed to come into the UK market or European market by autumn 2023. So possibly, we're really talking about a 2024 bike, where people are going to be actively riding it in the dry conditions, that kind of thing. But it's basically saying both might be, so basically the Ninja ZX4R has nothing to do with the already existing Ninja 400. Both might be 400cc, but where the Ninja 400 has a twin cylinder, the ZX4 will have a 4-cylinder. So as I say, this is not a small CC any old engine going into it. This is a sporty racing 4-cylinder CC, just like a shrunk down version of what you'd find in the, you know, ZX10 or something like that, you know. But look, you know, it looks nice. Let's have a look. Yeah, the motorcycle uses a newly designed engine which produces 57 kilowatts at 76.4 horsepower, or 59 kilowatts, 79.1 horsepower with ram air system. When the ram air system is pressurized, so you're basically getting just under 3 horsepower more with ram air. Basically, ram air. I had this on my old Kawasaki as well. You got ducts at the front of the. You got ducts, very old technology now, but you got ducts at the front of the fairing that channel airflow as you're riding along into the inlet manifold. So you get a colder air, more dense air, more compressed air. So it's like a natural compressor, right? But essentially, the faster you go, the more power it develops. Okay, minutely more, but it just develops more power. And like the ZZR 1400 I had was exactly that. It was an amazing bike, probably one of the best bikes I've ever had, actually, in terms of performance and just outright, you know, beauty. Okay. The next one here, a quick story. I'm not going to get into it. Read it again. This is from Visordown, but the basic KTM they were going to bring out a 490cc KTM, but range, but they've basically binned that, or it looks as if they've binned that, and they're going to focus on the 690 variation for 2023, 2024 as well. There were lots of leaked photos of this as well, and again, like a parallel twin, 490 parallel twin. But it looks as if that's gone to the wayside. Okay, let's just get into the next story then. Okay, so this is all about general news, and you can see that I'm rabbiting through this or running through this just to get to the main stories here tonight. Okay, so this is from the Indian motorcycle manufacturer TVS, who have basically just said, this is from economictimes.indiatimes.com, so an Indian publication, right? They're basically saying the vehicle sales rise to 2 million. No, sorry, that's wrong. 275,115 units in January alone. So they're basically saying that they're up 32%. Yeah, they're up 32%. So they're just going. Let's have a look. Wednesday says vehicle sales grew 3% in the domestic market. In January, the company posted vehicle sales. Basically, okay, they produce small bikes, right? And whilst India in itself is having, they're all saying that they're going to have to charge higher taxes and all that for their motorcycles and everything. The motorcycles will be more expensive. People are still buying these up like they're going out of fashion because they're small CC, cheaper bikes. People looking for cheap modes of transport. So this is why they're doing so well. And all the manufacturers out there, in all honesty, they're all doing really well. So you're led to believe. So here's the next story. I've got to say, sometimes I just think Indian motorcycles are the funniest buggers around. I really do. Let me explain, okay? So when Harley Davidson were announcing their January the 18th launch reveal, what Indian did was they sent out a press release in the morning of the 18th to say, hey, guess what? We're opening a new rental service in around Europe. You can come and rent the bikes. I think it was in Portugal. And I thought it was really funny, okay? So when Indian I got quite a few press releases from Indian this week, and they're also saying, okay, we're just giving out our dealership awards and everything. So every time it seems that Harley Davidson were making a little announcement here, or people were talking about it, they're coming out with another press release, right? Saying, oh, we're doing this. Oh, we're giving out our dealership awards. Oh, didn't they do well? So it's all great. It's all good stuff. But this is what made me laugh. As the dust has settled from the live launch from Harley Davidson, and people are talking less about the bikes, I suppose, but more about the year to come and this festivities that are going to be happening not only around Europe but also in Milwaukee in June, July, isn't it? Then Indian release another press release, and this is actually featured here in Visor Down as well, but I've got the press release as well. And then basically there's going to be an Indian Riders Fest in 2023, and it's going with Budweiser, the beer in Czech Republic, and it'll be the world's largest gathering of Indian motorcycle owners. So they're really pumping it out. Now, bear in mind, you've got the European Harley Davidson big bash, as it were, and that's going in Hungary, in Budapest. That's going in at the same sort of time. So it's really interesting that all of a sudden, sometimes it just makes me laugh that all of a sudden somebody like Indian, they're saying, well, if you're doing that, we'll have one too. If you're going to have a launch, we'll have a little mini launch as well. I just think it's really funny. Let us know your thoughts on that. But Indian motorcycles, I don't know what to say. It just makes me laugh. They're almost like saying, hey, hold on, don't forget about us. But there we go. Anyway, I digress. Right, so that's one here. Okay, let's have a look here. Now, what's the next story? Okay, so here's the next story, and I'm not sure what to make of it, or I'm not sure where I'm coming with this. But let us know your thoughts on this. So, are Triumph motorcycles, are they an English brand anymore? And let me explain. So I started looking into Triumph a little bit more. I get press releases from them as well, of course, of what they're going on in terms of company structure. And Triumph are a bit of an odd thing in that they've been around since 1902. They came out of the bicycle era. And so they were producing bicycles before then, went into the motorized world, and they had a whole history of course. Then they went by the wayside, then they were restarted again. And so they've got a base here in the UK in Hinckley in Leicestershire, and but most of their bikes are not made here in the UK. They're actually made in Thailand. It says they've got 3 factories in Thailand and 1 factory in Brazil. So it's an interesting thing when you actually ask, okay, are Triumph British? Well, they are. They are a private limited company. Let me just show you the website here. And it's basically, they're owned by John Bloor. This is a Wikipedia page just to show you. But he's a British billionaire businessman. He owns Bloor Holdings, who own Bloor Homes. He's a big property developer, and Triumph Motorcycles. So whilst Triumph Motorcycles is a private limited or private company, they are owned by the holdings company of John Bloor, okay, Bloor Holdings. Anyway, so and it says here, it's basically saying, they're privately owned, but the spirit of Triumph, however, belongs to you, the rider. Well, okay, that's just marketing speak, isn't it? They're basically trying to deflect away from them being a big company owned by a even bigger company and a big billionaire businessman. No problem this whatsoever. This is not a criticism at all. I'm just trying to give you a statement of fact. But they have, it says here, Triumph has 6 world-class factories around the world. 2 of these factories are based in Hinckley in the UK. I wasn't aware of that. I thought it was only 1, but there's 2. There's 3 in Thailand, in Chonburi, and the other one is in Manus. And every motorcycle begins its life in Hinckley where all our design work, prototype construction and engineering takes place. So in other words, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're produced here, they're just produced elsewhere. But they are owned, they are a British company, but not a lot of activity happens here. Or so I thought, and then I started digging into their strategy. And I was like, well, what's going on here? And I wasn't aware of this in terms of strategy. Okay, this is the way it works for Triumph. In that, they see where the demand of their motorcycles comes from. Which market? So I think I'm right in saying that their biggest market right now, or as of now, 2022, last year, was the United States. So because it's in the United States and Europe, I believe UK and France is a big market for them as well, that they shift the production of virtually all of their motorcycles to the UK, or the big ones, the big ADVs, let's say. And the other manufacturing in, let's say, Brazil or in Thailand, they're still producing their bikes, but they're not the main manufacturers. But they produce the bikes for other markets around the world. If, let's say, the market drops here or in the United States, then they shift production back over to Thailand. So every factory is geared up to produce all the bikes, I believe, okay, apart from the prototypes and specialist engineering. I believe the gearboxes and some other components are all manufactured here in the UK. Whilst there is the capability to fully assemble all the bikes here, it really depends where the market is. So then, what the demand is in those markets. So it's not necessarily that they are producing bikes in Thailand or Brazil for the global market. They shift it around. It depends where the market is, where they feel they can get the best deal, the best sales, the best, tariffs, let's say, the best labor costs and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really interesting. But when you look at things like this and you think, well, okay, this is not a British company anymore in terms of operation. This is a company that operates on a global scale. This is nothing new, by the way. I'm not bringing you new news, and I'm not trying to claim that I'm bringing you new news. I just thought the new news for me was I didn't know that they shifted production according to demand or global demand and where that demand is coming from. I thought it was just they produce the bikes there in Thailand, let's say, and then they produce a small number over here or in Brazil. I didn't know that they could shift it around like chess pieces on a, like a pawns on a chessboard, as it were. So there we go. Triumph Motorcycles, they are a British motorcycle company operating at a global level, and they are no different to many other motorcycle manufacturers now. They also have relationships with other motorcycle companies, let's say from India, from China as well. Obviously in Thailand, so whilst they may not be official, there's lots of connections there. There's lots of associations there, and I'm sure they're building up on that. And when you're talking about on a global sense, it's just a really interesting thing. It's a really interesting thing for me to acknowledge here. So I've never really delved into Triumph at this level really before. I knew they had bikes from different parts of the world, but never this level. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts on this. Would you consider Triumph as a British motorcycle brand, or it doesn't matter where they make their motorcycles as long as the ownership, the headquarters, are in the UK, right? Now, I suppose I'm asking the same question of any other motorcycle brand. Does it really matter where they're produced, as long as the head office, the design, the thinking is in the country of its origination? Does it really matter anymore? Let us know your thoughts. Right, here we are. Here's the next one. Here's the next story. I thought I'd bring this to you. This is, I suppose, let me just quickly say this. This is what I've been talking about Triumph. Actually, it's a very similar thing you could say about another brand. Let's say BMW, German brand, right? Well, actually, they are exactly the same situation. They've got plant manufacturing in Brazil. They've got manufacturing in India. They've got an association with India anyway. TVS to produce a 390. They got manufacturing in Thailand and China as well. So they're all over the place as well. Yeah, still a German company, just as Triumph are a British company, but they're working on a global scale as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they work it, how their development is as well. Okay, let's just let's just talk about this next bit, which is going to be the best motorcycle tourer for 2023. I'm going to dig into the chat a little bit. Anyway, after this next segment, I'm going to be into the chat, and then we're going to have the big debate about YouTubers and dealerships and all that kind of stuff. My thoughts, okay? And they might surprise you. Because people seem to have an impression of me, but they might surprise you. Okay, so let me just talk about this, which is going to be the best touring motorcycle for 2023. I have my thoughts, but you may have your thoughts as well. Let me show you some offerings in the UK, and then we'll sort of discuss. So Yamaha, they released for 2023 the Tracer 99 GT Plus. Sports tourer kind of thing, upright riding position, ultimate sport tourer, it's saying here. Very, very good. In the UK, don't have the FJR anymore, 1300, which I thought was a great machine. Suzuki, I talked about this a week or so ago. The GSX S1000 GT, and there's an S version GTS, I believe. And this is the biggest selling sports tourer in the UK right now. Okay, if you look at Honda, of course, you can't do anything and not use Honda. They've obviously got the Goldwing, right? The Goldwing, we know those. But then there's this one here, the NT1100. This is going to be the big one, let's say. This is the one they're going to be. This is, if you're looking for a touring motorcycle, very few people are going to buy a Goldwing, but they will buy an 1100, right? An NT1100. I'm talking purely on price here, nothing more than that. Okay, Kawasaki do these touring Versys motorcycles. This is a 1000 SE Grand, boxes and everything. I'm not saying that these are the ultimate tourers, but I'm just saying these are the ones that would do a touring job very, very well. This has nothing to do with style. So the ones that I've shown you so far, outside of the Honda Goldwing, they're all very much of a muchness. They're kind of a adventure bike style, sports toury style, aren't they? That kind of thing. Then obviously you've got the likes of Indian, right? Indian motorcycles with all their baggers, their Tourers that they've got, the Roadmasters, the Indian Pursuit, which I think is a really great bike. But you could also put into there the Super Chief or something. I mean, let's face it, you can use any bike. Any bike can be a touring motorcycle, can't it? It depends how you want to use it. But look, Indian, of course, and we couldn't go anywhere without talking about BMW. BMW, these are, I've got to say, they are fantastic bikes. The K1600, K1600B, Grand America, these are fantastic bikes. The R1250 RT, I still say, is probably one of the best touring motorcycles in terms of riding that I've ridden. Now, granted, I haven't ridden them all, but I was that impressed with it. I was just amazed by it, and I really want to go and try these K1600s, the updated versions. But they're great. But of course, they also do the the R18, the R18B, which is the so R18 Classic, which has got bags, soft bags, and a windshield. You got the R18B, which has got the full fairing and hard bags, and you got the R18 Transcontinental, which is basically the R18B, but just with a tour pack on the back. Great bikes. They look good as well, right? Obviously, Harley Davidson. We can't talk about Tourers without talking about Harley Davidson, right? Yeah, I mean, as I've said in previous videos, and people kind of forget that I say this, strangely enough, I see more value in these standard Tourers than I do in some of the cruisers, and obviously way more value in these than the even more expensive versions of them. But I think, yeah, whilst they're really expensive still, I think you're still getting a lot of, you're getting more value. I'm not saying you get ultimate value, but I think you're getting more value in here. Triumph. Obviously, Triumph do a lot of motorcycles. They do the adventure bikes, that kind of thing. But I've picked the Rocket 3 because of the power and everything. You can get bags for these as well. The riding position is really, really nice on the Rocket 3. But if we just look at the motorcycles here, you've got the adventure bike, the 1200. You got the 900 as bigger touring bikes. Then obviously you've got the Rocket 3 as well. They don't have it, let's say, a conventional tourer, let's say like BMW or Indian or Harley Davidson, of course, or Honda Goldwing-esque. But what they do have is a very capable bike. I wanted to make this segment because I think there are lots of options there's always lots of options, but I think possibly some of the best touring motorcycles are the ones that you don't normally associate with touring, but are excellent touring bikes. And usually these are the ones that I criticize for being not very good or not very useful in the off-road sense, and these are big adventure bikes. I'm always talking, go lighter, you get lighter bikes for off-road riding. Yes, that's true, but when you're talking about on-road riding and a tour, then a big adventure bike is actually a great bike. The Pan America, 1250, the Triumph Tiger 1200, the BMW GS, the Ducati Multistrada, the KTM 1290 Adventure, the Kawasaki Versys, you got the Suzuki V-Strom. All these bikes at the 1000cc, 1200cc, they are excellent tourers. But which is the best? I mean, it's very hard, I know, to say which is going to be the best bike for you. It really depends on your personal finances. It also depends on the riding style and what you actually like to ride. You may only like to ride a Harley Davidson or an Indian, or it's got to be British. You can only ride a Triumph, or it can only be German because you've got to ride a BMW. Whatever it is. So you could have, your decision might be biased based upon lots of different things. And I kind of look at all of these bikes and I think, wow, which is the best one? I'm not really sure I know. I'm not really sure you could pick one over the other, because they're all going to do the right job, or they're all going to do the right job. My leaning would be towards a liquid cooled one, purely because they're just more efficient in terms of, riding in hotter temperatures, long rides, that kind of thing. But then again, Harley Davidsons are great for the big tours anyway. There's no issue there. They do feel really hot, but they're okay. So my feeling, if let's say I had to go and buy a tourer tomorrow, I think it would be between a BMW, one of it's either K1600 or the 1250 RT, if it wasn't going to be in a big adventure bike. I'm discounting the adventure bike because I'm not sure if I'm there yet with the whole big adventure bike as an overall package. But I could be swayed. But I think in terms of tourers, I think the BMWs were so impressive, and I think the Honda, obviously the NT1100, I think would be great, but obviously the Goldwing would be nice as well. If I was looking for that, something that was kind of the more traditional style, then I think, again, it will be a toss-up between the BMW R18 Transcontinental, and it will be something like the Indian Pursuit. You know, it will be something like that is kind of, you know, yeah, they are really expensive, I know, but or maybe one of the other Indians, it'd be a liquid-cooled version anyway, so it'll be liquid-cooled, and it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Bearing in mind that apparently BMW as well, they're having a big update for, it's either 2023 or 2024 Boxer engines, where they're going to have full liquid cooling all around the cylinders as well. So they're going to be a lot more efficient. So that'll be, very interesting. Let us know your thoughts. Which would be the best one? And so this is kind of my thoughts. I thought I'd just share a few of the Tourers, which I'm sure I've missed out. I'm sure I've missed out loads of bikes. Of course I have. You know, I can't pick everyone, but I thought that was just a selection. I thought, oh, looks interesting. Yeah, good. Looks interesting. Looks nice. Good. Yeah, I could see value there. I can see where you would really have fun on that. You know, and you got to consider not only personal touring, solo touring, but two-up touring. You know, with you and your partner or whatever. Hey, let's get into some of these comments. Let's just see. I've totally lost where I was. I've got the latest ones, but I've totally missed the ones from before, so I do apologise. Let me just get onto these now. Here we go. Oh, there are quite a few. Right. Which has been the first one? There we go. Right. From Continental 650, Continental GT are fine bikes. I won't sell my Harley there. Look, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think they're going to be for everybody. And I'm not saying you should definitely sell another bike to go and get them, but I'm thinking, they're going to be strong challengers to grab people's attention, I think. 400cc, 57 horsepower, 4-cylinder. Wow, I almost died on my friend's Ninja H2. Oh, dear, yeah, not exactly, yeah. For a small bike, that's a lot of power, right? So if you're thinking you're a brand new rider, or somebody who's maybe size, as in your physical dimensions, not suited for a big bike, this might be just right. Just right. No Triumph factories, assemblers in Britain. There are, but as I say, it's yeah. It's a bit of a funny one. I wasn't too sure about that myself. Dave's Classic Cars. Indian Motorcycle Company doesn't have the heritage that Harley Davidson does. I think it's got the heritage. It just hasn't got the continuity, has it? It hasn't got the continuity because they were out of business for many, many years as well. But I see where you're going. Not anywhere close. All they try to do is copy what Harley does. Yeah, there is a lot of. You look at their bikes. There is a lot of similarity. The problem is they didn't really change a lot from the Victory days, and a lot of the Victory styling went into the Indian bikes, or they pretty much were Victory bikes. And then they just didn't really do much. A lot of the styling was of, like that Springfield is pretty much, for me, it's very similar to the Road King. Differences, yeah, but certainly the front bit, it looks so much, but there we go. Indian Scout is great mid-sized cruiser, yeah. Yeah, they are great bikes. Morris, I remember when Triumphs had made in England in gold placed on the down tube on the cradle frame. It made me feel proud. Yes, yeah, I remember seeing those as well. Indian FTR is a great sport bike. It is nice. Yeah, great bikes, actually, those FTRs. So, I mean, this is where, for me, Indian sort of rose above that traditional, I want to say that in inverted commas, the traditional American motorcycle producer, when they came out with all the other bikes, obviously, but they came out with the FTR, and people thought, wow, these are Europeans and Japanese riders and riders from all over the world are kind of looking up and going, hold on a minute, Indian, that's not a bad little bike there. Well done, Very similar to when Harley Davidson brought out their Pan America. People were thinking, nah, Harley Davidson, they're never going to be able to do anything good with that. But all of a sudden, they brought out Pan America and thought, oh, hello, this is, pretty decent bike. So there we go. Shift workaround, does that mean they shut or severely reduce one factory tough on labour? No, I don't think they do. I think this is the weird thing with Triumph. It's not as if they shut one down or reduce one down. They just move the priority of their production. Or if, let's say, one market is really in high demand, they not only, and that one factory can't produce all the bikes, they start producing them at the other factory as well, so they'll have a dual production, if you know what I mean. And then let's say if this whole market over here is not selling many 660s, for example, then this factory will continue to, produce them or increase its production. So it's ingenious, actually. It's actually ingenious the way it works. I'm just kind of throwing sticks in the air and seeing where they fall here. Yeah, they are British, but what I'm saying is I think you can apply this to all big motorcycle manufacturers, all car manufacturers. They're all over the world, aren't they? They are all over the world. Their productions are all over the world. Thunderbird, Harley doesn't have anything that matches the FDR. That's true. They don't. And that's why I think they were just so good when they brought those out. Best Harley Ultra Limited, no contest. Yeah. No, if you like that kind of bike, and as I said, there's a lot of value, and I've said this in previous shows and in videos as well. Strangely enough, you're getting more for your money, even though it's like a $30,000 shekel bike. I think you get more of that. Yeah, Thunderbird, Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello. Again, that's a bike I totally missed out on, but you're absolutely right. That V100 Mandello, people are talking about it. All right, lots of the press all over the world are talking about it, or they have been talking about that for a while. But yeah, Thunderbird, by that I mean the best. Are you a Moto Guzzi fan? What do they call the Moto Guzzi fan guys? I forgot what they call them now. Let me know if you know. I forgot to tell you. It's not the. Oh, I totally forgot what it is. There we go. Mad Max Seattle, USA in the house. Hello, good afternoon. Yes, it would be good afternoon for you there over there, wouldn't it? I love my Harley Ultra Limited. Yeah, nice bike, lovely bike. GS is off the chart for touring. I believe so as well. BMW GS. I think all the big adventure bikes are fantastic for touring, but that GS is just fabulous. Try this. KTM 390 ADV is fast, comfortable, great off-road, cheap and nimble. Yes, I took the KTM on a moderate tour and I had fun on the trails when I got there. Yeah, it is a nice bike. I had the BMW 310 for a morning. Great. I went everywhere and it was great. No problem. I'm a Harley guy, but the Honda Goldwing is a first-class tourer for sure. I like the BMW touring bike. So, well, I do too. There we go. I've caught up now. There we go. Look, it's cool. It's got hot on. I've got a heater under here all of a sudden. Let me just turn that off. Cool. Got hot all of a sudden. Right. Let me have a little bit of caffeine libation here, and we'll carry on. Thanks for all the comments, by the way. Thanks for all joining. Let us know where you're from and all that sort of stuff. It's really good to know. There's going to be a few more videos coming out. I've got lots planned for the next few weeks, I suppose. I'm kind of debating which ones to make and which not to make, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I want them to be watched and everything like that, but it's almost about, strangely enough, if I'm trying to do things that are a little bit more topical, it's about timing. It's about trying to get the timing right. And with all my other projects going on, sometimes I'm struggling with the topical nature of a story, or the interesting part of a story. And what I tend to do with my videos now, the last sort of 6 months, I've really been trying to do it more and more, certainly since the turn of the year, was find a story, a motorcycle story in this case, but then I don't always make a video about something that I talk about or something that I feature on a live show. These are just like stories or news items, but if there's an interesting little segment within it and I'm asking questions, well, why did that happen, why is that happening, then I tend to make that into video. So if you notice the BMW recall video I made last week, the KTM recall video that I made for today, that was released today, I'm finding really interesting little segments within those stories. So I think that's something to be good. Okay, should we get on to the main discussion of the evening? Shall we? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So here's a question for you. Should motorcycle dealerships have YouTube channels? Discuss. So this is my thought on Harley Davidson dealerships, or for that matter, any dealership, any car dealership, it doesn't make any difference. Should a motorcycle dealership, Harley dealership, Triumph, BMW, should they have a YouTube channel, and should they try to act like YouTubers, right? And I think I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that I say, no, absolutely not. Stay in your lane, sell bikes, do your normal advertising, but just stay away from YouTube. And actually, I completely disagree with that statement. I actually welcome any dealership or any business, for that matter, to use social media and YouTube. And I've been saying this for years and years and years. Well, in relative terms, of course, quite a few years now, to say if you're a business, actually YouTube is possibly one of the best things that you can invest your time in. Yes, Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and TikTok, you can do that. But in terms of a searchable nature that you can actually talk about your products that you've got and everything like that, great. So you can say you're a Harley Davidson dealership and you can say, hey, look, this is our bike that we've just got in, the new Lowrider S. This is the Lowrider ST. Here it is. You can use it as a sales platform if you want and talk about all the different bikes. But you've got to be able to do it in a way that is non-salesman-like. You don't want to come off as a used car salesman and say, hey, look, the car of the week or the bike of the week is this one. There's got to be a little bit more than that. So this is where you can really start engaging with the audience, or your audience, even your own customers, but you can start talking about a bit behind the scenes, what goes on, in the workshop, what, your decision making when you're talking about bringing new inventory, the accessories, all that kind of stuff. That kind of builds up a story, and people who are watching YouTube, they not only want to have information, but they also want to be invested in whoever they're watching. And it's basically the personal side of it, the personal aspect of anything. They want to have that personal look, that insight in what goes on into a place that they may know, or a place that they go to that's of a similar nature, right? So this is why I think that dealerships should be on social media, but they should also make YouTube videos, right? And I've talked about this for a long, long time. However, there is a big if here. There is a big but, I should say, a big but. The big but is this, that dealerships, or any dealership, if they start acting like a YouTuber in terms of playing funny games, doing daft things, giving their opinions on things, right? Then it can come at odds with their business model, and it can come at odds with what they're trying to tell you, let's say. So on one hand, they still got to remain professional, but they're also trying to act like the YouTuber life. And I kind of made videos about this in the past where I kind of say to, businesses, so actually, hold on, your business is to showcase the products that you make. So why are you talking about products that have been sent to you by another company that you've never used before, but you're just showing off? That doesn't quite work for me. That's what YouTubers do. This is what, this is what it is. So you're kind of muddying the waters a little bit. But one of the things that really kind of interests me is when dealerships or anybody with a dealership, they're saying that they're giving you the best advice, or they're telling you that this is what they're doing and everything like that. And they're giving you the things that you need to hear. This is where I have the argument, because I say, well, actually, no, you're acting as a business. You're acting in your own business interests, which is absolutely right. That is what you should do, but you're not unbiased. You can't be unbiased because you're trying to move this brand of bike, this brand of car, these bikes, these cars. You're not going to come on YouTube and say that bike is absolutely rubbish. It's just the worst bike ever. Don't buy that. But I'll tell you what, buy this one instead. Because guess what? You need to somehow sell that bike. So you can't come on and say that's rubbish. You got to say, that's really great. But for my preference, I like this bike here. It fits me a bit better. It fits my body shape. But I tell you what, that's a great bike for somebody else. And because it's got this, it's got this, do you know what I mean? That's how you should be playing it from a business point of view. But when you start trying to say, that's great and that's not great, you can't claim as if you're some kind of unbiased presenter of information. So this is where I come into the whole thing, which you know my thoughts on this, about people having biased views within YouTubers, within the YouTube world, let's say. And they try and tell you, hey, I'm giving you an unbiased view. And so, no, you can't be giving me an unbiased view when you're being paid by XYZ company, where they're giving you an all expenses trip to so and so and so forth. You can't tell me that you are the font of all knowledge if you own a dealership and you're saying that just because I'm critical of certain aspects of a particular brand that I'm a hater, and then all of a sudden you're a lover. Well, you're not a lover, you're in business, you're biased for this. So this is where I get a bit funny. Look, I make no bones about it. I got a comment on one of my videos this week from Matt Laidlaw, whoever he is, right? Who's he? Okay, you know who he is, right? He's got a dealership, or his father's got a dealership. It's Laidlaw's in Los Angeles, in California area. He does YouTube videos. They're okay. They're not my cup of tea, but they're okay. I think there should be a lot more personality in it. But this is where I'm saying it. This is what I'm saying, is that YouTube channels should be that personality, opinion. They should be from you. It's YouTube. When you're starting to be a YouTuber, you're trying to be a YouTuber, but you're still acting like a dealership businessman, and then you come onto another channel and you're saying that you're just haters and you're just defending everything that you're doing. Well, hold on a minute. Of course you're having to defend everything that you're doing because guess what? You're trying to sell bikes. You're trying to say, hey, it doesn't matter if Harley Davidson have put up their prices or whatever. Hey, they should put up their prices. It's a premium product and everything. Of course you're going to say that because guess what? You're trying to sell bikes. You're going to keep on trying to sell bikes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you can't start saying that all of somebody else has an inferior opinion just because they criticize. I got quite a few emails this week from people in the United States, and there was a kind of a running theme, a commentary here, where they're saying in the United States, if you say anything that is a little bit anti, or you question the Harley Davidson world in particular, they deem you as a hater. Well, that's just ridiculous. These are opinions at the end of the day. The dealerships and the companies want you to buy their products. But it's a two-way street. They've got to give you something that you're going to be excited about, but also that will appease any concerns that you have. And if they're not doing that, if they're just sort of shooing you away and saying, do you know what, hey, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, you're a hater because you're asking questions. No, these are genuine questions. These are genuine concerns. So when dealerships don't play the right or ride the right path, as it were, and they start trying to be something that they're really not supposed to be, then all of a sudden it kind of gets a bit confusing. It kind of gets a bit, well, what are they? Are they a business or a YouTube channel? Are they a podcaster? Or are we in a world now where everybody's doing everything? So if everybody's doing everything, then your opinion is as invalid as mine. If you're saying that a YouTuber, YouTubers only use clickbait, well, you're doing YouTube channels, YouTube videos as well. Therefore, you're criticizing your own content. It doesn't quite work. There's a lot of oddities here. There's a lot of cross fertilization, as it were, which is fine. Again, I want to say this, as I said right at the very start. I think that YouTube channels should be part of the business model of any business, in terms, and social media as well. It should be part of it. The problem is that most businesses don't really know how to use it effectively. And what they fail to realize is that it's actually the personal nature, and it's the personal opinion, and it's the personality, and it's the independence. That's what makes you appealing, and that's what makes companies want to come to you to make it. If you're just a voice box for a company, then it comes across as you're just the voice box of a company. If you are a dealership owner and you're using YouTube to say, hey, look, this is our inventory, this is what we've got, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Because you're just giving us information about your business, about the benefits of your business and what you can do and what products you sell and everything. Perfect. That's great. But you can't be like a YouTuber who is going to give you something completely different. And, I had this with a dealership down here a couple of years ago. It must have been 2 or 3 years ago now, maybe, something like that, where I said to them, look, I'll come in, I'll, review some of your bikes, talk about some of the social media aspects, and talk about, YouTube and everything like that. We'll do behind the scenes and everything. And initially they were really, this is amazing, yes. And then all of a sudden they shut the door on me. They said, no, we're going to do it in-house. And they never have done anything in-house. Yeah, they got a Facebook page and they do a bit of Instagram, but they never wanted to do it. And I think that's a failing, because I think they've missed out on something like that. And I think, I think dealerships in particular, they should really try and harness this a little bit more. I'm not saying that they should get people like us necessarily, but I think they should be a bit more involved with this kind of community, but also develop their own media as well. But do it in a special way. It's got to be in a business way rather than a YouTube way. But you're still just using the same platform. Let us know your thoughts. As I say, I think sometimes it gets a little bit confusing as to, well, what is actually your point of view? What are you actually trying to tell us? If you're just trying to tell us that these bikes or these cars or these trucks are always fantastic, then that clearly isn't the case. I've been watching a few truck video channels from the USA, and a couple in particular, and I've got to say, fair play to them. They are spot on. They are absolutely spot on, because they're talking about the American market of the last sort of few months, really. They're talking about how dealerships have got all these brand new vehicles in. They're trying to sell way over, and this is common knowledge now, right? Way over MSRP. This is why the CEO of Ford Motor Company was really getting really hacked off with all the dealerships around the country, saying you're overcharging for these vehicles, you're profiteering over these vehicles about because of supply chain issues and all this sort of stuff. So what's happening? It's got to a point where loads and loads of brand new vehicles are not being sold. And what's happening? That these dealerships, they're sending these brand new vehicles, or vehicles with very little mileage on them, to auctions. And people, these YouTube channels, let's say, they are going to auctions and they're picking up brand new vehicles or nearly new vehicles with, let's say, 20 miles on them, 50 miles, 100 miles on them, nothing at all, right? And they're picking them up for a much discounted rate. And that's what they're saying, that there is a natural bottom to this. You can't overcharge, because people just stop buying, or people just can't afford that. Even if they really need it, they just can't afford it. So if they just can't afford it, guess what? They're going to go elsewhere. And we're here now to mop this up, because we can buy these at a discounted rate and we can sell them at a discounted rate. Yes, we can still make a healthy profit, but we're not going to try and sell them at $20,000 or $30,000, $40,000 more than they were ever intended to be sold. And that's the key. So this is where I see YouTube and YouTube channels being really honest with you. They're actually showing you and say, hey, look, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. This is the problem. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing these issues. You don't get that kind of honesty yet from mainline dealers, especially the likes of a Harley Davidson dealership who's also trying to be a YouTube channel as well. As I say, they may do, but I don't often watch them. But when I do, it does come across as not being like that. Let me get into some of these comments here as well. Here. There. Oops. Wrong one. Veteran Biker, hello there, how are you? Hello. Thank you for your email during the week. Very appreciate it. Right, here we go. Right, KTM Recall. What? Well, watch your video. You'll find out. Continental. That's right. Old story. It's an old story, but it's ongoing, which really surprised me. Watch the video. It's all in there. Matt Laidlaw does a good channel. Just remember what his job is. This is my point. Yeah, I'm not saying he's got a bad channel. In fact, but of what I've seen in the past, it's a very good channel. It's a very popular channel. It's a very big channel. But okay, let me cast your minds back to this. If you ever saw it, $1 Million Bogan went to the United States and he went to Matt Laidlaw. He was making a big thing out of it. You wanted to meet Matt Laidlaw and all this sort of stuff, right? And this is what YouTubers do in general terms. They want to try and associate themselves out with bigger YouTubers so they kind of can help us grow their channel as well. Okay, so this is a tactic anyway. But he's very excited, and $1 Million Bogan is a very excitable guy. I quite like him. I like his channel. I don't watch hardly as much as I should, I suppose, these days. But, great. Anyway, so he went there and then did a podcast afterwards. So there was $1 Million Bogan in this podcast with Matt Laidlaw and a couple of others there. And he was basically trying to say the problems with Harley Davidson. And you could tell that Matt Laidlaw didn't like it. And he didn't like it because, maybe he thought that $1 Million Bogan was wrong, which he wasn't. He was completely right because he was talking about suspension, all this sort of stuff on Taurus, right? But the other thing is, he didn't like it because also this directly affects his business. And he's on a public forum here, on a public podcast, which he's making. And then you got somebody there who is a Harley Davidson fanatic, Harley Davidson fan, who's openly criticizing the company and also the products that they sell, or some of the products that they sell. Didn't like it. So this is the problem. As you're just saying there, just remember what his job is. Job is to sell motorcycles. He's not there to give you the best information or the most independent information. If you want to go to watch a YouTube channel that gives you the most independent information, you come right here. No, you go somewhere else, don't you? But you can't have independence otherwise. It just doesn't work. You can try, but it's just like all these other YouTubers who get brand deals and say, this is a great product, if they never use that product, or if they're being paid to do a commercial, that's fine, but you've got to say, and there is actually a YouTube condition that you've got to say I am being paid, or it's got to be in the description, this is a paid promotion or whatever, But if you're going to say things like that, you've got to believe it. And you've got to say it from an independent point of view. And you can't do that if that's your business. Sorry, wrong one. Oops. I'm banging things all over the place. YouTube dealers, yes, but they must leave comments section active and not delete negative comments. Why do they do that, do they? I've heard of some YouTube channels that delete negative comments. There's one here in the UK. Apparently he's quite big on doing that, but I don't know. Matt doesn't really have a personality. Well, I think that's just his delivery style. I'm not going to get personal on the guy, but yeah, it's very monotone, isn't it? But that could be the way to do it, Veteran biker, I have a relationship with my local HD shop, but I am my own opinion. Good. I am my own channel, and they do not control my free speech. Well, that's great. That's great. That's the way it should be. John, good morning, UK. Good morning to you. Yes, of course, you're in New Zealand, aren't you? Veteran biking. I just got blasted for my last video. I criticised Harley for having Green Day at the 120th birthday. Green Day hates America and even said so. Oh, is that right? I didn't know that. Yeah, I suppose I suppose when you put it like that, it does contradict that, doesn't it? But there we go. Well then, Green Day behave themselves at the venue. That's right. They get a slap, won't they? There you go. John, what's your channel basically about? There we go. Bobby Walters, hello. It would have been wise to bring up everything in the US. It would have been wise to bring up everything in the US is so unrealistic. I am a used dealer and used bikes went up last year, and I expect higher this year. I wish it wasn't so. Even the auctions, I'm sure they are. Bobby. There's, this has never been a criticism of facts. If prices are going up, they are facts. If auction prices are going up, they are facts. There's nothing to be criticised about. I'm just talking about in certain circumstances. But I take your point, absolutely. John thinks veteran as a yank. No, if you criticise Harley, you get flame sprayed. Oh dear. Well, I think you would definitely in certain quarters, and I dare say it really depends where you are as well, because obviously there are many areas where many areas of the United States where 99% of people only ride Harley Davidsons, right? And the reason why most people ride a particular brand in any particular area is because if there is a dealership there or a series of dealerships of that brand, right? And as we know, Harley Davidson got the biggest dealership network in the United States, so it kind of stands to reason. That's why they got the biggest market share, although it has reduced over the years, whatever. And whilst, yes, as it was pointed out to me by Mr. Laidlaw, yes, over the last year, the stock price of Harley Davidson have gone up 37%. Yes, but they were right on their knees 6 months ago, and they're almost at a very precarious position, and they're still quite a way off, about another $13-14 off their all-time high. But what you fail to acknowledge here, Mr. Man, is that stock prices are not based on how a company is doing. Stock price is based upon many different factors, and one of the notable factors is it's actually independent of the company itself. It's also to do with interest rates, inflation rates, things that happen around the world that you think, well, how can this affect a particular company? Then all to the stock market, they get a feeling for it and they think, well, that'll affect that. Oh, stock price, I'm going to drop down. Stock prices will always go up ahead of a big launch or before a company starts making sales. It boosts it up. And then what will happen is, and as I said this a few weeks ago when we talked about Harley Davidson stock prices, it will go up and up and up, and then it may, if the market likes it or the likes way things are going in terms of profitability, then it will kind of stay there. But if it doesn't, it'll start dropping again. but stock prices go up and down all the time. So just to say that they've gone up 37%, well, they've gone up 37% because they were such a low last year. So, hey, if you want to exchange facts and start throwing facts at me, let's just make sure that you know that I'm actually, you've got to know that I don't know what I'm talking about then, because unfortunately I do. Not that much, but I do. Okay. Bobby Waters. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind here. Where am I? Here we go. Bobby Waters. I watched Matt see the countryside. When I retire, I'm hitting the road for a decent ride. Been to Sturgis 23 times over 24 years. Yeah. Again, when he goes out on his rides, or he's been out on his rides, of the videos that I've seen, yeah, I've ridden those roads, a lot of those roads around there. Lovely roads. They're lovely riding roads all around California, all into Arizona, New Mexico, some great roads up into Northern California, and then into Oregon and Washington State. Fantastic roads. But those roads, yeah, it's great, and it makes you want to do that. So there we go. Greedy car dealers charging over MSRP. US car dealers, lots are getting full because of it, and high interest rates aren't helping either. Yeah, absolutely right. And this is what these YouTube channels was basically saying. Big problems, and I'm not 100% sure which vehicles they were talking about, because there were various YouTube channels and YouTube videos talking about different types of cars, but I think the overwhelming majority was talking about trucks, basically. The stock might have went up and not sales. I bet. Well, that's the problem. It's very hard to see what sales are. Somebody made a great comment earlier on today when they were on one of the videos or another video. And what was it? I wish I could remember. There was something about the sales of. It's either sales of a company or sales of Harley Davidson or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but whoever made the comment, whatever it was, I acknowledged it, and it was a great comment. So there we go. I wish I could remember what the comment was. Warren Buffett lent Harley Davidson a huge amount of money to stay afloat. Well, is that right? Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, it is right. Yeah. Yeah, up 37% from the lowest point, not above their all-time high. Yeah, absolutely right. There isn't. It's statistic, and this is when I get a bit frustrated with anybody who tries to throw statistics my way or facts and figures my way. The problem, as we know, that there is a saying, lies, damn lies, and statistics. It's you can fudge anything. You can make anything sound really good when it actually isn't. You can make something sound fantastic when it actually isn't. And we don't know if Harley Davidson or Indian or Triumph or BMW or Ducati or anybody, we don't know if they're going to have a good year. We know BMW and the likes of Ducati and Harley Davidson have had good 2022s. But they're not. But BMW and certainly Ducati have had bumper years. Harley Davidson still have not regained what they once had many, many years ago. But they have surprised the market in many ways. But this is where stock analysts, they're confusing as well, because you can get one day that says, oh, they're doing really well and their projections are really great. The next day you get another analyst saying, no, they're terrible, this is a very precarious position and all this kind of stuff. So when you talk about, and this is what I mean, when you talk about stock prices for a company like any company, right? It doesn't have to be Harley Davidson. The fact that their stock is going up or it's coming down is not necessarily based upon their own performance. It is, but there's also other factors involved as well. So they can, come there. Mad Mac. Revelator Alf is a West Ham supporter, eh? I am indeed. RE will have a good year. I think so. I think they're going to have a very good year. Not only, now there was a story actually where they're saying that Royal Enfield were one of the biggest selling bikes in, I'm not sure if in Europe, but no, in the UK I think it was last year, and how that surprised a lot of people. A lot of the American publications are also, like the one I showed earlier on about whether Royal Enfield 650 Meteor, whether that's going to be sort of a challenger to, well, I said I think it's more likely to be a challenger to Triumph's Bonneville range, let's say, but they were saying it's more of a challenger to the Harley Davidson range as a cheaper alternative, you know. But this is where the big competition is going to come from, and this is where it's going to be most acutely felt. So I don't want any company to suffer, and I don't want any dealership to, you know, to fail or anything like that. And I would never wish that on anybody, never wish hard times on anybody, regardless of how they may feel about me or what their opinions are in general. Because, you know, I think people have been trying to say I was wrong, or I was saying people are wrong, and right on. When I had to correct somebody, I said, well, I never actually said anybody was wrong. I never said I was right, and I never said that this is a fact, let's say. I said, you know, these, as you rightly say, these are opinions. Yeah, these are only opinions, okay? But there is a real risk. There's a real risk of where there's such a divergence in terms of what people can afford, or what people are willing to spend, and what they're being charged, and when there's a viable alternative. And when there's a viable alternative, you're going to have the people who can afford it will probably always go to big brands like Indian, BMW, Harley Davidson, for example, right? Because that's what they like, because that's what they can afford and everything. But the people who are on the fence, who still make up quite a substantial amount of sales, they're going to go to, well, value and what they can afford. And if they're going to go to something like Royal Enfield, you know, and they're a great brand, and they've just got better and better and better. I've really been paying attention to Royal Enfield the last few years, and one of the bikes that really turned me on to them, well, one of them was Classic 350 years ago, but it was the Himalayan, and I thought, wow, what a great bike that is. And it got, you know, such rave reviews. And this is when the Himalayan first got out, not when it became popular on YouTube. This is when it very first came out. I saw one of the very first promo reels of it, and it was, I just thought, wow, this is really cool. This is really cool, you know. But there we go. Oh, you got a Himalayan as well. Oh, excellent. Veteran biker. I'm wondering when Indian does anything to become more relevant. Harley has increased prices so much that younger riders cannot afford them. Do you know what? It'd be interesting to see how Indian react to this. Do they? I think I made a video a while ago, basically saying they're kind of the same company. They sell very similar bikes. They're very similar price point. Indian, you could say there's more value there in certain respects, not all respects. You could say there's a technology gap, really, I suppose, between Indian and Harley Davidson, until Harley Davidson bought the Revolution Max engine. Then they kind of clawed their way back there. So there's a lot of similarities between the two. But it'd be interesting to see how Indian, and they've got the FTR Sport, they've got the Elite, the Challenger Elite, which they've brought out, but they haven't really come out with anything new for 2023. So it'd be interesting to see how they react this year. And obviously they got the Pursuit from the last year as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they do this year and what they do to try and increase their market share. Because what plagues Harley Davidson is gonna be the same thing that plagues Indian as well. In that, you know, you've got high priced bikes. You don't really sell a lot of cheap bikes, as in cheap, but there are viable alternatives out there that are really, really inexpensive, you know. So Brangren, I look forward to the Royal Enfield 450cc water cooled. Yeah, so that's the other big news as well. Water cooled, liquid cooled bikes from Royal Enfield as well. Let's have a look. I do not wish China bikes well, but keep building Rotax engines. Yeah, a lot of the Chinese motorcycle manufacturers have taken on production licenses of older manufactured engines. Harley Davidson has sent out licenses there. They've been building Sportster or Sportster clones or Evo clones. They've been doing it with Norton engines, Triumph engines, BMW engines. So they could still produce all the engines from yesteryear if they wanted to. John, do you feel Harley Davidson will lead the way in EV production? I think they're on a very good path to be in the mix. But lead the way, I don't think so. Because I think, regardless of what the CEO, Jochen Zeitz, is adamant that they're going to be 100% electric, long after we're gone, but, 100% electric. It's all very well saying in decades to come we're going to be all electric, but, but that's the way the market, or they believe the market go. But the juxtaposition to that is that quite a few other manufacturers of the last couple of weeks have saying, actually, hold on a minute. KTM, Triumph, for example, have basically been coming out, the CEOs or the owner groups, and basically saying, hold on a minute. EV bikes are not the only answer. And this is I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but this is kind of what I've been saying for the last year or so, is that EV bikes are not the only answer, because you've got alternative fuels, you've got synthetic fuels, you've got biofuels. We can redesign engines, rework engines. Indian motorcycle manufacturers, as I said in a show last week, they're producing they're producing bikes of this year that are running on 85% ethanol. In some cases, 100% ethanol, biofuel, 100% ethanol engines, and that's just amazing. Okay, we could talk about the efficiency of these engines and everything, but as a starting point, there is an alternative. There is a viable alternative to EV bikes. So, they may well be one of the leaders, but as I keep on saying, you can't ignore what these other motorcycle manufacturers in the EV world have done. Now, what I do anticipate, if Harley Davidson do continue, I wouldn't be surprised if they swallow up some of these smaller electric motorcycle markets. They take their IP, intellectual property, away from that, the rights of all their products. They take the expertise from within those companies and bring them into the Harley Davidson or the Livewire company, that kind of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But look, you've got to figure that EV motorcycle manufacturers now, the Japanese Big Four, they're coming on strong. You got the likes of BMW who are there or thereabouts. You got Indian motorcycle manufacturers. Part of the Indian government program is for all motorcycle manufacturers to start producing EV bikes. So there is a directive there. They do have a directive to say alternative fuels, that's one path, but we've got to have electric bikes as well as a future program. And you can't discount Chinese bikes as well, Chinese electric production as well. It's very hard to see where Harley Davidson can be the leader, but I think they can be in the mix. Let's have a look here. Yeah. Bobby Watson, I apologise. Matt would have been wiser to explain our situation in the US. It's nuts. I stand by you having freedom to use your channel as you prefer. Keep telling it as is. As you have. Good job. So, well, thank you, Bobby. That's really, it's really kind of you to say. There is no doubt that, and I've always said this on my channel, I've always had a lot of sympathy for dealerships because they come under a lot of criticism when I think it's unnecessary and I think it's unjustified at times. I think sometimes they bring it upon themselves. But you cannot deny there are, and this is what I said before, you cannot keep on saying everything is great and everything is all rosy when it isn't. And obviously there's lots of instances when things are not doing very, very well, and people are suffering. Well, that's not good. You don't want people to suffer. Veteran biker, EV bikes are not going to be relevant. There is no way you can get 500,000 EV bikes to Sturgis. No charging stations in the middle of Wyoming and Nebraska, and this is one of the biggest problems that the whole EV market is going to have. It's the infrastructure to support electric vehicles, motorcycles, cars, whatever, in rural areas. It just isn't. And the problem is they're seeing EV bikes as vehicles as the green solution. I was watching a podcast, a Joe Rogan podcast, 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's an excellent podcast of this particular guy. I forgot what his name is, but he was talking about tactical economic solutions or something, from all over the world, and he's talking about China and stuff like that, but he was talking about electric vehicles and everything like this, and he was basically saying, look, this is kind of what we've been saying of those of us who are kind of holding a hand up and saying, well, hold on a minute, because we were saying, well, what about the infrastructure? What about the cost of the infrastructure, the cost of putting all new cabling, all these new charging stations, and the cost to generate all this extra electricity, so on and so on and so forth. And this, when you talk about that, well, that's not environmentally friendly to produce all that. And most countries in the world, their main source of energy production, electric production, is through fossil fuels. Even if you've got a nuclear option, or you're using wind, or you're using wave, or you're using solar, they cannot support the grid. The grid is always, energy production is always supported by the use of fossil fuels. And that's one of the big things. So they've got to invest in massive renewable energies, green energies, to produce green energy rather, and the production of the infrastructure has got to be green, which it's never going to be, in order to produce the infrastructure and the charging stations. So you're right in the middle of buttfuck nowhere in bloody Wyoming or wherever, beautiful, but it's in the middle of nowhere, right? unless you come across a gas station or electric charging station along the road, that's it, you're pushing your bike, aren't you? And let's not get into the whole Charlie and Ewan McGregor thing when they rode their bikes, Harley Davidsons, from the tip of South America all the way up to the United States. They had charging vehicles with them. Yeah, they had charging generator vehicles with them, and every time they came unstuck, they could get those charged up. It made good television, but they never told you the whole story. And also, there's the true heroes of that program, of that journey, were not Harley Davidson, because they had problems with the bikes. They had problems with especially in South America, with the cold and the battery life and everything like that. It wasn't Harley Davidson. The true hero were Rivian, who made the truck, like the Cyber type truck, the Tesla type truck, that followed them along, and they had 2 trucks, and they were like prototypes. They were setting up. But part of that deal was that they were going to put charging stations all the way up. And it was the Rivian charging stations, or funded charging stations, that made that trip possible. Now, I know it's frontier. At the time, it was frontier. They're breaking new frontiers. So it's not a criticism of that, but it's just a reality check of what it was. Excuse me. EV bikes are for city use only. I'd say, yeah, great option if you're riding city or short just distances. I would be very tempted myself, especially, I've said this before, you can get EV bikes in the UK now for around about the £5,000 mark as well. But, we're talking, they're a little bit, just a bit more equivalent to a 50cc, 100cc motorcycle. But look, great for little pootling about and everything like that, and going to the shops or going to work if you only work down the road. Yeah, great. The human misery and lithium cobalt mining. Exactly right. Transportation and waste is terrible. Yeah. EV bikes, coal powered. Yes. Well, yes. Yeah. If you think about it like that. 500 e-bikes at Sturgis, mayhem riots in the streets. Dogs and cats living together. Wouldn't it be funny though? Yeah, it would be funny. I'd be like one of those guys, stood in the on the sidelines, as it were, just eating my popcorn, eating my hot dog, having a beer, just watching it all unfold in front of me. Trying to dodge the flying chairs as they come my way. No way you can charge them at all. Yeah, absolutely right. Rolling black hats in California, absolutely right. And then you want EV to work, never work. That's right. They were actually saying this last November, I think it was, saying to people in California, please do not charge your EV vehicles as often as you would. Try not to use them as much because our grid can't take it. A couple of years ago, what was it? Texas had a mass blackout. The grid just went down. They had mass problems. So it's veteran, but the Livewire has basically gone bankrupt. Yes, basically what happens, they launched the company Livewire on the New York Stock Exchange through this different way of doing it. They had lots of people, lots of investors, and as soon as it went on the market, people start pulling their money out. So they start, but people don't talk about this, all the Harley Davidson fan group, they don't talk about this, but Harley Davidson, the company, had to bail out Livewire, and it was to the detriment of the coffers at Harley Davidson. Yeah, absolutely right. Livewire lost $370 million in 2022. It'd be interesting to see if they can recover and what they produce. What they produce for the future. EV bikes are great to ride to yoga with your latte. There's nothing wrong with yoga or latte, I would say. I've never done yoga, but you know what I mean. I do like a latte though. Just imagine, just a little twist and go. I do like little twist and go mopeds. Just like little twist and go, drinking your latte, saying hello to the local people. Yeah, I quite like that. EV bikes are the Graham Norton of motorcycles. There's a great. I'm a big fan of this motorcycle manufacturer here in the UK. It's electric motorcycle manufacturer. And they are small powered ones, but they're called Maving. And if you're listening to Maving, please send me one of your bikes so I can just ride it around and have fun on it. It's but they're kind of retro cool, but it's really good. But again, short distances, right? Just riding around town. There's somebody around my area that's got a Maving. It's great. It's nice going around. Really nice. Go green. No more plastic straws wrapped in paper. Just paper straws wrapped in plastic. That's right. Oh, you are a card, sir. You are a card. Absolutely right. Well, apparently, you shouldn't have straws at all, or plastic straws, or paper straws. Wrong. No. It's bad for the environment. It's metal straws you should have, reusable metal straws. So you have metal straws and you keep them. That's it. You keep them. So So you've basically got to dig up the metal out of the ground, the ore. You've got to process it, go into a foundry with all the heat and the energy to produce the metal, to shape it and everything like that, to produce the straw that you're going to probably use once, put it in the drawer, never use again, and every time you want to get it, you'll forget where you put it, so you're going to reach for the plastic straw. Anyway, there we go. That's not cynical, is it? Headed to grab dinner on my American V-twin. Oh, yes. You all have a great evening. Mr. UK. Veteran Bike, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining. And with that, I think I will leave it there as well. I hope you've had a great listen, great little yarn, isn't it? What part of the UK are you in, Revelator? I'm in a place called Berkshire, west of London, just west of London, not too far from London really. So it's good transport links, whether it's public transport, trains or road network, really good round here. It's busy, but it's okay. It's close into London if I want to go and watch a football or anything like that. So it's great. It's good. It's a good part of the world. Been living around here about 20 years, I think, something like that. Right. Anyway, thanks very much, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you got a bit of news, a bit of opinion, a bit of insight, a bit of what I think of the world. Alf's world. Alf's world. Lived in Ruislip, had some mates in Reading. Well, Reading, that's where I live. Reading. I live in Reading. And Ruislip is just down the road from me. It's not too far. It's just down about half an hour. In fact, I ride through Ruislip quite a lot. Anytime I go to the Ace Cafe, if I ever pop that way. I don't actually go there that often, but occasionally I will. Or there, I'll tell you what is really nice. Now, is it Ruislip or just a little bit past Ruislip? It's on the main road going into London. You just pass Ruislip. You go past the Polish War Cemetery, the Polish War Memorial, and there is the London Motorcycle Museum on the right-hand side as you go through there. Always worth a visit. Always worth a visit. Many good beers at Reading. Right. Bobby Walters, 2 summers ago, the life I would bring 21k and vary to 18k same summer. I had no desire to own one. I want people to hear the bike might save your life. I know one that rides one. Well, that's always the argument against EVs. Nobody hears. I actually heard. So I reviewed a desktop exercise, as it were, in terms of I talked about a motorcycle company from Italy that produced an electric bike as a concept, but what they did, they produced artificial sound on the bike, so it sounds like an engine going through, so you would hear it. And every time you revved it, as in turn the throttle to increase the power of the electric motor, it would go, and it was just like, it was almost like sirens and even speakers. And they had it, I forgot what the company was called, but they sent me a very nice email saying thanks for the video and all that sort of stuff. It was a concept bike, and I don't think I think they were trying to crowdfund for it. And I don't think it ever got to the point where it was going to be a viable company. But, there we go. Yeah, Morris Casey on the A40. Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure. Oh, you've been there, Veteran Biker, the museum. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a London Bike Museum. It's kind of tucked away. If you don't know where it is, you don't know where it is, if you know what I mean. But yeah, some fantastic bikes in there. Really, really nice. Now, I'm hoping it's still there. I haven't heard that it was closed away. There was an article saying that there's the American Motorcycle Museum is closing, or has just closed, hasn't it? There we go. just like playing, just putting playing cards in the spokes. Clap, clap. Exactly right. That's kind of what was going on there. Oh, good. Anyway, listen, guys. All I can say is my cough is still here. I don't know what's going on. But listen, all I can say, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. I really appreciate the chat and the talk and the questions and having discussion. As I say, nobody ever has to agree with me. It's nice that we talk and have this sort of stuff, but it is about sharing ideas and bringing you information and just, debate and learning from each other, because I learn from people who write comments in my videos and and have different opinions as well. So that's all about that. Have a brew right later. There we go. See you guys. Thanks very much. And as always, it's been emotional. Cheers now.